The message came on a quiet Tuesday. At first, the scientists at the Global Space Listening Array thought it was a mistake. Radio signals that didn't match any known pattern. Signals that repeated with perfect precision. Captain Samuel West was eating breakfast when his comm unit buzzed. He had been expecting shore leave after 6 months commanding the U.S. Defender in routine solar system patrols. Instead, he was being summoned immediately to United Earth Space Command Headquarters in Geneva. "Captain, we have a situation," Admiral Patel said, her face serious on the screen in front of him. "Pack for an extended mission. Full briefing upon arrival." 24 hours later, Samuel stood on the bridge of the Defender, staring at the mission orders in disbelief. Humanity had received its first confirmed extraterrestrial communication, and he was being sent to make first contact. "Are these orders for real, sir?" asked Lieutenant Greg Foster, his second in command. Samuel nodded. "Very real. Set course for Pluto orbit. That's where they're waiting." The crew worked with focused energy as the Defender pushed out beyond Mars. Samuel watched them with pride. They were the best Earth had to offer. Young, bright, trained for space exploration, but certainly not for meeting aliens. "Do you think they're friendly?" asked Communications Officer Maria Diaz during their third day of travel. Samuel considered the question carefully. "I hope so. But we're bringing weapons just in case." On the 7th day, they'd reached the meeting point. The alien ship simply appeared, as if stepping out from behind an invisible curtain. It was beautiful, pearly white with curved sections that reminded Samuel of whale bones. "They're hailing us," Maria said, her voice steady despite the historic moment. The screen lit up, and Samuel found himself looking at a being unlike anything humans had imagined. It had 4 eyes set in a diamond pattern on a face that seemed almost crystalline. Its skin shimmered with a blue-green iridescence. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Arcturus Alliance. We have been watching your world for some time." Samuel straightened his uniform. "I am Captain Samuel West of the United Earth Space Command. We welcome you to our solar system." Ambassador Krell's upper eyes blinked. "Captain, we come not merely to introduce ourselves, but to seek your help. Our civilization faces extinction." Over the next several hours, Krell explained that a devastating war had been raging across hundreds of star systems for over 3 centuries. The Arcturus Alliance fought against the Vorax Empire, a species that consumed worlds and enslaved populations. "Why come to us?" Samuel asked. "We've barely left our own solar system." "You are unique," Krell said. "We have observed your species. You adapt faster than any species we've encountered. Your military history shows innovative tactics that surprise us. The Vorax are predictable in their brutality. We believe humans could bring the unpredictability we need to turn the tide." Samuel frowned. "You're asking us to join a war we know nothing about. We offer technology centuries beyond yours, faster than light travel, advanced medicine, energy systems that would solve your climate crisis. In return, we ask for soldiers, strategists, and your unique human perspective." Samuel knew this was far beyond his authority. "I need to bring this to our leaders." Krell nodded, a gesture they must have learned from studying humans. "Of course, but know that time is short. The Vorax expand constantly. If they learn of Earth's existence." The unfinished threat hung in the air between them. The journey back to Earth was tense. Samuel spent hours reviewing the data provided by the Arcturus. Star maps showing hundreds of inhabited worlds. Footage of Vorax attacks that made his stomach turn. Technology that seemed like magic. As the blue sphere of Earth came into view, Samuel prepared his report. Humanity now faced its biggest decision: stay safely hidden in their corner of the galaxy, or step onto the galactic stage and join an interstellar war. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with tension. 100 representatives from Earth's nations sat in the circular room, their faces showing a mix of fear, excitement, and disbelief. Captain Samuel West stood at the center, finishing his presentation about the Arcturus Alliance and their request for help. "That concludes my report," Samuel said, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. President Eleanor Hayes rose from her seat. "Thank you, Captain West. This is clearly the most important decision humanity has ever faced." Defense Minister Olivia Martinez was the first to speak after Samuel's report. "This is madness," she said, her voice firm. "We know nothing about these aliens or this war. For all we know, they could be lying to us." "I've reviewed all the evidence they provided," Samuel replied. "Their ships, their technology. It's all far beyond what we could create. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so already." General Alan Wright, a tall man with gray hair and a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. "Madam President, this is humanity's chance to establish ourselves among the stars. The technology they're offering would advance us by centuries." "At what cost?" Martins countered. "How many human lives are we willing to sacrifice for alien technology?" The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued that Earth should stay neutral. Others saw opportunity in joining the war. A few suggested that the entire situation might be a trap. Dr. Linda Freeman, Earth's leading xenobiologist, presented her analysis next. "The biological data provided by the Arcturus appears genuine. They are carbon-based life forms, not unlike us in basic structure despite their appearance. The footage of the Vorax shows beings that seem designed for conquest, heavily armored bodies, multiple limbs adapted for combat." "And you believe this war is real?" President Hayes asked. "I do," Dr. Freeman said. "And based on the star maps they provided, the Vorax expansion will eventually reach our solar system, whether we join the alliance or not." As the second day of meetings began, public opinion was sharply divided. Outside the council building, crowds gathered. Some held signs supporting joining the Galactic War, others protested against it. "The people are scared," Samuel told General Wright during a break. "I can't blame them. Fear is natural," Wright replied. "But so is courage. Humanity has always pushed boundaries, Captain. Space is just the next frontier." On the third day, the council called for a vote. President Hayes addressed the representatives one final time. "We face a historic choice: stay isolated in our solar system and hope the war never reaches us, or join the alliance, gain their technology, and help shape the future of our galaxy." The voting took less than an hour. The result: 72 in favor, 28 against. Earth would join the Arcturus Alliance. President Hayes summoned Samuel to her office after the vote. "Captain West, your work has been exemplary. Earth needs a leader for this new chapter, someone who has already established a relationship with the Arcturus." Samuel felt a weight settle on his shoulders. "Madam President, effective immediately, you are promoted to Admiral. You will command humanity's first interstellar military contingent." 2 weeks later, Admiral West stood on the observation deck of the U.S. Defender, watching as 3,000 of Earth's finest soldiers boarded 5 newly retrofitted ships. The Arcturus had already begun sharing technology, helping humans adapt their vessels for deep space travel. "Admiral, the Arcturus delegation has arrived," Lieutenant Foster reported. Samuel nodded. "Tell them I'll be right there." He took one last look at Earth shining blue and green against the blackness of space. Humanity had made its decision. They were joining the war. For better or worse, Earth was now part of a galactic conflict that had been raging for centuries. There was no turning back now. The massive Arcturus training facility orbited a gas giant 3 light years from Earth. Admiral Samuel West watched through a viewing window as human soldiers trained alongside alien allies. After 6 weeks of preparation, the differences between species had become clear. "They're still underestimating us," Major John Reese said, standing beside Samuel. The stocky Marine commander had been pushing his troops hard, determined to prove human worth. Samuel nodded. "Let them. It will work to our advantage later." On the training floor, human Marines moved with speed that surprised the Arcturus. Tests had confirmed what Samuel already suspected. Humans had faster reflexes than most Alliance species. Their bodies, evolved on a high-gravity world with dangerous predators, gave them natural advantages. "Admiral, you need to see this," called Engineer Katie Summers from her workshop. The young woman had barely slept since their arrival, fascinated by Alliance technology. Samuel entered her lab to find Katie standing proudly next to what looked like a standard Alliance shield generator. "Watch this," she said, activating the device. A blue energy field appeared, similar to Arcturus shields. "Now watch what happens when it's attacked." She fired a small energy pulse at the shield. Instead of absorbing the impact evenly like Arcturus shields, this one rippled and shifted unpredictably. "I modified it to incorporate random fluctuations based on human brainwave patterns," Katie explained. "The Vorax weapons are programmed to find patterns and weaknesses. This shield doesn't have any consistent pattern to exploit." Samuel felt a surge of pride. "This is exactly what we need. How soon can we implement it on our ships?" 2 weeks, maybe less. Across the station, Science Officer Peter Kim worked with Alliance scientists to integrate human weapons with their ships. The Arcturus were brilliant but rigid in their thinking. Peter's lateral thinking approach consistently surprised them. "Your projectile weapons are primitive," an Arcturus engineer named Zev told Peter, "but the concept of physical ammunition is something the Vorax rarely encounter. Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons." Peter grinned. Sometimes old school works best. Not everyone welcomed the human presence. During a strategic planning session, an Arcturus commander named Dirax questioned human tactics. "Your suggested formations lack proper defensive alignment," Dirax said, his 4 eyes blinking in what Samuel had learned was a sign of irritation. "Proper alignment makes us predictable," Samuel countered. "The Vorax have been fighting you for centuries. They know your tactics. They won't expect ours. Your species is too new to space combat to understand." "That's exactly our advantage," Samuel interrupted. "We think differently. We adapt. We improvise." Admiral Krell, the overall Alliance commander, watched the exchange with interest. "Perhaps Admiral West has a point, Dirax. The Vorax have been gaining ground using the same tactics for decades. A change might surprise them." As training progressed, a message arrived from Earth. Samuel read it privately in his quarters, his expression grim. The message contained intelligence reports and a warning from General Wright. Some Alliance members were uncomfortable with how quickly humans were learning and adapting to space warfare. "Keep your guard up," Wright's message concluded. "And remember, humanity's interests come first." That night, Samuel called a private meeting with his command staff. "We're here to fight alongside the Alliance," he told them. "But we're not here to be cannon fodder. We continue training and sharing technology, but we keep some advantages to ourselves." Katie nodded. "I've been holding back some shield modifications anyway. Didn't seem wise to share everything." "Good," Samuel said. "We hope the Alliance is everything they claim to be. But until we're certain, we prepare for all possibilities." As the meeting ended, an alarm sounded throughout the station. A voice spoke over the communication system. "All combat units report to stations. Vorax fleet detected entering the system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The time for training was over. The real test was about to begin. The bridge of the U.S. Defender hummed with tense energy. Admiral Samuel West stood tall as his crew prepared for their first real battle. Outside the viewports, 20 Alliance ships formed a defensive line against the approaching Vorax fleet. 37 enemy vessels detected, reported Lieutenant Maria Diaz from her console. "They're moving in standard attack formation." Samuel studied the tactical display. The Vorax ships moved with machine-like precision. A wall of death headed straight for them. "Admiral Krell is ordering all ships to maintain defensive position Alpha," Greg Foster announced, looking up from the communications panel. Samuel frowned. The Alliance battle plan called for a static defense, exactly what the Vorax would expect. He opened a channel to the other human ships, the Intrepid, the Valiant, and the Dauntless. "This is Admiral West. Prepare to execute Maneuver Earth Delta on my mark." Captain Olivia Chen of the Intrepid responded first. "Sir, that contradicts Alliance command." "I know. Trust me on this." The Alliance ships held their positions as the Vorax closed in. Their vessels were dark, angular, and covered with what looked like bony protrusions. Living ships, the Arcturus had explained, grown rather than built. Admiral Krell's voice came through the comm. "All ships, hold position and prepare to engage at maximum range." Samuel watched as the battle began exactly as he feared. The Vorax spread out slightly, focusing fire on the center of the Alliance line. Alliance ships returned fire, but their static position made them easy targets. "Admiral Krell's flagship is taking heavy damage," Maria reported. Samuel made his decision. "All Earth vessels, execute Maneuver Earth Delta now." The 4 human ships broke formation, accelerating at full speed. While the Alliance and Vorax remained locked in their head-on battle, the human vessels swung in a wide arc around the engagement. Admiral West returned to formation immediately. Krell's voice was sharp with anger. Samuel ignored the command. "All Earth ships, maintain course. Prepare to hit their rear flank on my mark." The human ships completed their flanking maneuver, coming up behind the Vorax fleet. From this angle, the enemy's shields were weaker. Their attention focused on the Alliance front. "Fire all weapons," Samuel ordered. The 4 Earth vessels unleashed everything they had. Katie's modified shields adapted instantly to the Vorax return fire, while Peter's hybrid weapons tore through enemy defenses. 2 Vorax ships exploded immediately. A third spun out of control, leaking atmosphere. The Vorax commanders seemed confused by the unexpected attack from behind. Their perfect formation faltered as ships turned to address the new threat. "Admiral Krell," Samuel called over the comm. "Press your attack now while they're divided." For a moment, Samuel thought Krell might refuse out of pride. Then the Alliance ships surged forward, catching the disorganized Vorax between 2 forces. The battle lasted another 40 minutes, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. When the last Vorax ship retreated, the Alliance had lost only 3 vessels, far fewer than any recent engagement. On the bridge of the Defender, the crew cheered. Samuel allowed himself a small smile before opening a channel to Admiral Krell. The Arcturus commander's 4 eyes stared at Samuel with an expression he couldn't read. "Your tactics were unorthodox, Admiral West," Krell said finally. "But effective," Samuel replied. "Indeed, the Alliance High Command will be most interested to hear how 4 human ships changed the course of a battle." After the communication ended, Lieutenant Foster approached Samuel. "Sir, what happens now?" Samuel looked out at the debris field that had once been enemy ships. Now they know what humans can do, and that changes everything. Word spread quickly through the Alliance. Humanity had proven its worth in combat. Samuel received messages from other Alliance commanders wanting to know more about Earth tactics. But he also noticed some Arcturus officers watching the human crews with what seemed like concern. The victory had made a statement, but Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much more complicated war. 3 months after their first victory, Admiral Samuel West found himself in unfamiliar territory, alien politics. The meeting chamber on the Arcturus command station was filled with representatives from 12 species. What should have been a simple strategy session had turned into a debate about the role of human forces. "The humans continue to ignore standard battle protocols," said Commander Dirax, the same Arcturus officer who had questioned their tactics during training. "It puts other Alliance ships at risk." Samuel kept his voice calm. "Those same tactics have won us 6 battles with minimal casualties." "That is true," agreed General Ziv, a tall, thin alien from a species called the Kilari. "Perhaps we should consider adapting some human approaches to our standard procedures." Several Alliance commanders nodded in agreement, but Samuel noticed Dirax and his supporters exchange concerned looks. Later, in a corridor outside the meeting hall, Admiral Krell approached Samuel privately. "Your people continue to impress, Admiral West," Krell said. "Perhaps too much. Is that a problem?" Samuel asked. "Some members of High Command worry about how quickly humans are advancing within our ranks. You've been here less than half a cycle, yet your ships now lead many of our engagements. I thought winning the war was the priority." Krell's four eyes blinked slowly. "Of course. Just be aware that not everyone welcomes rapid change." As Krell walked away, Commander Diane Clark, Samuel's intelligence officer, stepped out from a nearby doorway. "I heard that," she said quietly, "and it confirms what I've been finding." "What do you mean?" "Follow me, sir." In her secure office, Diane showed Samuel data she had collected over the past weeks. "I've been analyzing Alliance communications and historical records they shared with us. There are inconsistencies in their account of how the war started." Samuel studied the information. "They told us the Vorax attacked them without provocation. But these records suggest the Alliance may have expanded into Vorax territory first." Diane pointed to a star map. "And there's something else. The Arcturists seem to be limiting our contact with other species in the Alliance, almost like they're afraid we'll form separate alliances." This matched the uneasy feeling Samuel had been developing. "Keep investigating, but quietly. We need more evidence before making any accusations." Meanwhile, on Earth, the first reports of human casualties had arrived. Families received news that their sons and daughters had died fighting an alien enemy in distant star systems. Protests began in major cities around the world. Nathan Powell, a former soldier turned peace activist, led a rally in Washington, D.C. "We were told this was a defensive war. But our people are dying on planets we've never heard of or aliens we barely know." The protests grew as more casualty reports arrived. General Wright faced tough questions from the United Earth Council. The Alliance promised to share advanced medical technology. Council member Sophia Rice said, "But all we've received so far are weapons systems." "We're making progress," Wright insisted. "But these things take time." Back on the front lines, Samuel was preparing for another offensive when a secure message arrived from Earth. President Hayes herself had recorded it. "Admiral West," she began, her face serious, "our intelligence suggests you should be cautious about the upcoming Vorax stronghold assault. We have reason to believe human ships are being positioned to absorb the brunt of enemy fire." Samuel felt a chill. The battle plans had indeed placed his ships at the front of the attack formation. "Keep this information to yourself," Hayes continued, "but take whatever steps necessary to protect our people. Earth stands behind you." As the message ended, Samuel looked out at the stars. The Arcturus had brought humanity into this war with promises of partnership and advanced technology. But increasingly, it seemed they viewed humans as either a tool or a threat. "Sir," Lieutenant Foster interrupted his thoughts, "the Alliance Command is requesting our deployment schedule for the assault." Samuel nodded slowly. "Tell them we'll be ready, Greg, but make some changes to our ship positions. We're going to be a bit more cautious this time." The Vorax stronghold loomed ahead, a massive space station built into an asteroid. Admiral Samuel West stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defender, watching as the combined fleet approached their target. Despite his concerns, the Alliance High Command had insisted on keeping human ships at the front of the formation. "This doesn't feel right," Lieutenant Greg Foster said quietly beside him. Samuel nodded. "Stay alert. Be ready to change course on my command." The plan called for human ships to draw enemy fire while the Alliance vessels moved into position for the main assault. Samuel had agreed, but with modifications. He positioned his ships in a looser formation than requested, giving them more room to maneuver if needed. "Vorax defenses activating," reported Maria Diaz from her station. "They're launching fighter squadrons. All ships, maintain formation but prepare for evasive action," Samuel ordered. He opened a channel to the Alliance command ship. Admiral Krell, we're detecting heavy defenses. Request confirmation that support vessels are in position. There was a delay before Krell responded. Continue your approach, Admiral West. Support is coming. The battle began as planned. Human ships engaged the Vorax defenses, their modified shields holding against the initial barrage. The Defender shook as energy weapons struck its hull. Shield integrity at 70%, Foster reported. The Intrepid and Valiant are taking heavy fire. Samuel checked the tactical display. Where are the Alliance support ships? They should be moving in now. Sir, called Communications Officer Julia Barnes, her voice tight with concern. I'm detecting unusual communication patterns between Alliance vessels. Explain. They're using a frequency we weren't told about. Julia's fingers flew over her console. I can partially decrypt it, but... Let me hear it, Samuel ordered. Fragments of alien voices filled the bridge. Though the translation was incomplete, the meaning was clear enough. Humans drawing their fire as planned. Delay support until acceptable losses. Test their capabilities against superior numbers. Samuel's face hardened. They're using us as bait, and they have no intention of providing timely support. A massive explosion rocked the ship. The Dauntless has taken critical damage, Foster reported, his voice shaking. Their engines are offline. Samuel made a swift decision. All Earth vessels, this is Admiral West. Break formation immediately. Execute emergency withdrawal pattern Omega. Sir, Julia said, Admiral Krell is demanding we maintain position. Ignore it, Samuel replied, and open a secured channel to the Dauntless. Captain Ryan Miller of the Dauntless appeared on screen, his bridge filled with smoke. We're in bad shape, Admiral. We're coming to get you, Samuel told him. Prepare for emergency docking. As the human ships broke formation, the Vorax adjusted their attack, focusing fire on the now retreating vessels. The Defender swung around, its engines straining as it moved to assist the crippled Dauntless. Sir, Julia called out, I've intercepted more Alliance communications. They're saying we've abandoned our posts. They're claiming we're retreating out of cowardice. Samuel felt cold anger building inside him. Record everything. Every communication, every sensor reading. I want irrefutable evidence of what's happening here. The Defender reached the Dauntless, extending docking clamps to secure the damaged vessel. Evacuation of Dauntless crew underway, Foster reported. 3 minutes until complete. On the tactical display, Samuel saw the Alliance ships finally moving into attack position, far too late to be of real help. Sir, Julia said, I've compiled all evidence of the betrayal and encrypted it, ready to transmit to Earth on your command. Samuel nodded. Send it, and prepare a message for President Hayes. Tell her the Alliance can't be trusted. We need to reconsider our position in this war. As the last of the Dauntless crew boarded the Defender, Samuel ordered all remaining human ships to make the jump to their emergency rendezvous point. The starfield stretched and blurred as they entered faster than light travel, leaving behind both the Vorax stronghold and their supposed allies. What now, sir? Foster asked as the stars returned to normal at their safe location. Samuel looked at his battered but resolute crew. Now we fight our own way, on our terms. President Eleanor Hayes stood before the United Earth Council, her expression grave as she delivered the news. As of today, Earth has formally ended its alliance with the Arcturus. Their betrayal at the Vorax stronghold confirms what our intelligence has suspected for some time. They view us as expendable. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and questions. Hayes raised her hand for silence. However, we are not withdrawing from this conflict. Admiral West's reports confirm that the Vorax are a genuine threat. If they discover Earth, they will come for us regardless of our status with the Alliance. On the Defender, now stationed at an abandoned mining outpost on the edge of contested space, Admiral Samuel West received Earth's decision with relief. His small fleet of 4 ships, one badly damaged, wouldn't have lasted long without support. "We're on our own now," he told his assembled officers in the Defenders' conference room. "But we're not alone in that situation." Samuel nodded to Commander Diane Clark, who activated a holographic display showing several alien species. "Since the betrayal, I've made contact with representatives from these 3 races," Diane explained. "The Kilari, the Novan, and the Trell. All have been marginalized by the Arcturus within the Alliance structure." "Why would they help us?" asked Lieutenant Foster. "Because they've experienced similar treatment," Samuel replied. "The Arcturus keep critical technology from them, position their ships in the most dangerous situations, and ignore their tactical input. We've proposed a separate coalition," Diane continued. "Smaller, but more equal. They're interested." Samuel stood. "Our mission hasn't changed. We still need to protect Earth from the Vorax. But now we do it our way." 3 weeks later, engineer Katie Summers hurried through the corridors of the mining outpost, now transformed into a makeshift human base. She burst into Samuel's office without knocking. "It works," she exclaimed, her eyes bright with excitement. "The neural pattern weapons system works." Samuel looked up from his tactical displays. "Show me." In her workshop, Katie demonstrated her latest creation. Standard energy weapons follow predictable patterns. The Vorax have adapted their shields to those patterns. But this system runs on human neural patterns, completely unpredictable. She activated the prototype. A beam of energy shot out, twisting and changing direction in ways no conventional weapon would. "No shield can adapt to something this random," Katie explained. "Each shot follows a different pattern based on the operator's unique brainwaves." Samuel smiled for the first time in weeks. "How soon can we implement this?" 2 weeks for the Defender, 4 for the rest of the fleet. Meanwhile, Science Officer Peter Kim was making his own breakthrough. Working alongside a Kilari scientist, he had been studying Vorax ship fragments recovered from previous battles. "Admiral," Peter reported, "we found something the Alliance either missed or concealed from us." He showed Samuel a microscopic image of Vorax hull material. "Their living ships have a central nervous system. Here and here." He pointed to thin lines running through the material. "It's why they're so resilient to conventional attacks." "What are you suggesting?" "A specific frequency disrupts these neural pathways. It would be like targeting the spine rather than trying to penetrate the skin. One hit could disable an entire ship." Samuel looked between Katie and Peter. "So we have weapons the Vorax can't adapt to, and we found a critical weakness they've been hiding." He opened a channel to his new allies. The faces of Kilari, Novan, and Trell commanders appeared on screen. "We're ready to move forward with our plan," Samuel told them. "Earth will provide the new weapons technology as promised, and we'll provide the ships and personnel to help deploy them," the Kilari commander replied. Later that night, Samuel sent a message to Earth. President Hayes needed to know they were no longer just surviving. They were preparing to change the course of the war. "We stand alone," he concluded his report, "but we stand strong. And soon, the Arcturus and Vorax alike will learn what humanity is truly capable of." The command center buzzed with activity as Admiral Samuel West reviewed the final battle plans. 6 months had passed since humanity broke from the Arcturus Alliance. In that time, they had formed their own coalition with the Kilari, Novan, and Trell. Now they were ready to strike at the heart of Vorax territory. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Lieutenant Foster said, his voice steady despite the tension. Samuel nodded. "And our special visitor arrived an hour ago, waiting in your office." Samuel found Admiral Krell standing by the viewport, his 4 eyes taking in the busy shipyard where vessels from 4 different species prepared for war. "Admiral West," Krell said, turning, "thank you for agreeing to meet." "You took a risk coming here," Samuel replied coolly. "A necessary one. The Alliance High Command has made a critical error in dismissing humans." Krell's voice lowered. "Some of us have been watching your progress. Your coalition has achieved more in 6 months than the Alliance has in years. What do you want, Krell? To warn you. The Vorax know you're coming. They've concentrated their forces at their command hub. And, he hesitated, the Alliance knows of your plan as well. They're waiting to see you destroyed. Samuel wasn't surprised. Why are you telling me this? Because this war has gone on too long. Because your approach may be our only hope for victory. And because not all Arcturus agree with how humans were treated. After Krell departed, Samuel called his commanders together. He explained the new intelligence and the increased risk. Do we abort? Asked Commander Diane Clark. Samuel looked at each face around the table, human and alien alike. No, we adjust. If both the Vorax and Arcturus are watching the command hub, we use that to our advantage. The next day, the Coalition fleet jumped into Vorax space. But instead of heading for the command hub as intelligence suggested, they split into 3 groups. The smallest group, led by the Kilari, headed toward the hub, appearing to be the main attack force. The second group, commanded by Novan and Trell ships, targeted Vorax supply lines. The third and largest group, led by the U.S. Defender, took a longer route to strike directly at the Vorax homeworld itself. They took the bait, Communications Officer Julia Barnes reported as they approached the Vorax homeworld. Both Vorax and Alliance ships are engaging our decoy force at the hub. The Defender, now retrofitted with Katie's neural pattern weapons and other human innovations, led the assault on the Vorax homeworld. The Vorax had left minimal defenses, never expecting an attack on their home. When the battle began, the Vorax discovered too late that their shields could not adapt to the unpredictable energy patterns of human weapons. Peter's discovery about their ship's neural pathways proved devastating. One hit to these critical areas would disable entire vessels. From the bridge of the Defender, Samuel watched as the supposedly invincible Vorax fleet crumbled before weapons they could not counter. Send the message, he ordered Julia, to everyone. Samuel's face appeared on communication systems throughout the galaxy, on Vorax ships, Alliance vessels, and every inhabited world within range. This is Admiral Samuel West of Earth. Today we have struck at the heart of the Vorax Empire. Not for conquest, not for territory, but to end a war that has raged for too long. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity entered this conflict as allies. We continue it as independents. We will forge our own path among the stars. We offer friendship to those who seek it, and strength against those who threaten peace. As the transmission ended, reports came in of Vorax ships surrendering across multiple systems. The Alliance fleet had abandoned their observation posts and were retreating. On the bridge of the Defender, Lieutenant Foster turned to Samuel. What happens now, sir? Samuel looked out at the stars, no longer strange and alien, but the new frontier of human destiny. Now the real work begins. Building peace is harder than winning war, but humanity has proven we belong here among the stars. He smiled slightly. And the galaxy will never be the same again. Far away on Earth, President Hayes watched Samuel's transmission with the United Earth Council. When it ended, the room remained silent for a long moment. Then Hayes stood. It seems humanity has found its place in the universe, and it's bigger than any of us imagined.